Hi, I'm Beth Trapani, and this is a webisode brought to you by the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation. It's part of a series on building resilience and the flourishing child. And today our guest is Carmen Gaddy from the Montgomery Early Learning Center. So thanks so much for joining us, Carmen. Tell us what the Early Learning Centers do.
So we provide high quality services to families and children. We want to make sure that we're serving communities. So we have programs in West Philadelphia. We have programs primarily in Montgomery County. And we have programs from 60 children to 150 children. And we're trying to make sure that their growth and development is facilitated by positive experiences.
Great. Play is sort of our topic for this session today. Tell us about the importance of play in the development of early childhood.
Well, children's work is play, and they learn to make sense of the world through their play. And so it's important for us to make sure that children have opportunities for play. And in making sure that they have opportunities for play, a lot of what we can do as adults is facilitate growth and development through play. And so it's important for us to be aware that everything that we do, from the minute that children wake up in the morning till the time that they go to bed, that we're noticing and observing and trying to make sure we're meeting the needs that they have on a daily basis.
What kind of recommendations would you have for parents who say, I'm busy, I'm trying to get dinner on the table, I'm trying to get everyone out the door and get to work, and now I have to sit and play?
So it's about including the play in whatever routine you're engaging in. So if you're cooking dinner, what is it that the child can help with? Or can the infant be close by to you so that you can talk about cutting up the carrots? Or, can you smell the spices that I'm putting in there? But having a conversation and including them, at any age. Children, as they grow, you can include them in baking cookies and making a recipe and talking about measurements, and so you can even do math along with the learning that's going on. And so it's not about creating special times for play to happen, but it's thinking about what can I do to engage my child while I'm doing my regular routines. Children are great at sorting through socks and matching them up, and so what is it that you can do in daily routines that can include children?
Play is so important because it's those moments of connection. And when we talk about adverse childhood experiences, which are known as ACEs, is the acronym for that. And that's things like divorce, separation, abuse, having a parent who's incarcerated, et cetera. Any number of things that can happen in childhood that affect development adversely. Connection is a big part of how to address that and how to help a child build resilience and flourish. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So connections are the way that we are able to thrive, really. We're born with the need to be able to connect with another human being. And I heard you say before that Jack Shonkoff talks about one caring adult in the life of a child. And that's what you need. Making sure that there's one caring adult in a child's life, and those connections are what builds the brain, and it's what children need in order to be able to self-regulate. So
the doctor you mentioned, it's Dr. Jack Shonkoff, and he's the director of the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University, and we have a clip of him speaking about how adverse childhood experiences can impact children.
When we talk about healthy development in the early years, and particularly when we talk about preparing children to succeed in school, we cannot separate cognitive development from social and emotional development. You can't have one without the other. All development builds on what comes before. So when children experience stable, nurturing relationships, it fosters the development of healthy circuitry. And when children experience uncertainty or instability or abusive or neglectful relationships, it literally disrupts the circuitry.
So Carmen, when we see something like that and we say the circuitry of the brain itself is being impacted by these negative or adverse childhood experiences, it almost sounds a little bit like, my goodness, there's no hope for these kids.
Well, the reality is there is hope. As long as children are exposed to warm and responsive and caring relationships, as long as someone lets them know the value that they bring to the world, as long as someone really helps them to figure out that life is filled with ups and downs, but it's how we respond to those ups and downs and how you learn how to cope with those ups and downs that really matter. And so relationships is about navigating those ups and downs for children and helping them to get through adversity and bounce back.
For a parent who, again, is struggling to find that time and is feeling stressed themselves, any suggestions for how they cope and how they come in and be that warm and loving adult when they themselves feel stressed?
You know, and that's the tricky part, is sometimes as adults, we haven't been given role models to be able to deal with those adversities ourselves. And so there are 3 strategies that I'd like to put out there. And the first one is self-awareness. You know, how are we bringing ourselves to our relationships? You know, what attitudes do we bring to our relationships? And the second one is observation. You know, knowing how you are with other people and observing the reaction other people have to the way that you are with them. And then responding flexibly. So, you know, think about, instead of hollering at a child, you know, saying, okay, step back, take a deep breath and say, okay, you know, let's try this again, or because we all make mistakes, and I think it's important for children to even see us making mistakes. But as adults, we need to find other adults that we can count on and who can give us concrete support in times of need. And so you need to figure out, who are your friends, who are the people that you can connect to. If you've just moved to a new neighborhood, you know, what are the resources that are available? So I think that's where our Pottstown Trauma-Informed Community Connections really supports families, and there's a place for you to go. We've tried to pull together resources from the community so that anyone who is in need can have an avenue to pursue so that they can get support and practice. You know, being a parent is sometimes lonely and filled with stressors, and so I think, you know, it's okay to ask for help. You know, that's part of being an adult, being able to ask for help and get the help that you need when you need it.
Fantastic. At the Montgomery Early Learning Center, what kind of training do the child care providers go through to be able to identify that this isn't just a child who is giving everyone a hard time, this is perhaps a child who is having a hard time?
You know, it's funny because I think sometimes the caregivers think, oh, he just got up this morning and, you know, he was just waiting to give me a hard time, when that's not really the case. But, you know, working with children is pretty complex, and I think child development is the first strategy and the first important information that caregivers need to have, because there are things that happen that are developmentally where children are. That's about their physical growth or their social emotional growth or about their cognitive development. And so we need to understand that, you know, those are normal behaviors for children. And then we need to figure out, okay, so after you learn that child growth and development, let's talk about trauma-informed practice. And there are sessions that they've attended so that they become better informed with those trauma-informed practices, and they can respond rather than react to children. And then there's those other things that they can learn with regard to self-care, because, you know, the trauma, what can happen is you can become vicariously impacted by what's happening in the classroom. And so, you know, doing exercise or doing those things that take care of you, those are also things that our teachers learn.
Great. Just to wrap up our conversation, there's some resources for people who want to learn more about the importance of play. One of the websites is called 0 to 3. Another is called Vroom, V-R-O-O-M, and It's talking about movement and the importance with movement with children, and a few others that are linked on the pottstownmatters.org website. Just very briefly, there's all kinds of play. So it's not just, you don't just have to be on the floor pushing cars back and forth or playing with Barbie dolls.
I think it's, you are the most important plaything for a child, for a baby especially. And so, remember that and take that to heart and, do the best that you can.
Terrific. Okay. Thank you so much, Carmen. I
you.
appreciate it. Again, this has been a Webisode brought to you by the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation.